Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the THS Devastator and looked out at the dark space around them. The massive ship floated quietly in the asteroid field beyond the edge of the solar system where no one could see it. For 3 long years, the Hurricane-class battleship had been hidden here, like a sleeping giant waiting for the right moment to wake up. The bridge was huge and filled with the soft blue glow of computer screens and holographic displays. Morrison was a tall man with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes from years of military service. He had been chosen to command this ship because he was one of the best captains in the Earth fleet, and because he understood what this moment meant for all of humanity. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Barnes sat at her station monitoring the long-range sensors that could detect ships and movements across dozens of star systems. She was young but smart and had worked her way up through the ranks by being better at reading sensor data than anyone else in the fleet. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel as she tracked the alien fleets that were moving into position around human colonies. The ship around them was like nothing that had ever been built before. The Devastator stretched 12 kilometers. From its pointed front to its massive engine section at the back, its hull was made from a new metal that could absorb energy weapons and turn that power into fuel for its own systems. Along the sides of the ship were weapons that used technology no other species in the galaxy had ever seen. Morrison walked over to the communication station, where Lieutenant Ben Rogers was listening to transmissions from Earth Command. Rogers was a quiet man who spoke 6 different alien languages and could decode almost any signal that came through space. He looked up at the captain with a serious expression on his face. "Sir, we just received the final transmission from Admiral Collins," Rogers said. "The Galactic Council has given Earth 72 hours to withdraw all human settlements from beyond the solar system, or they will destroy every human colony and then attack Earth itself." Morrison nodded slowly. He had expected this moment to come ever since humans had first traveled to other star systems and started building new homes on distant planets. The 3 main alien powers that controlled most of the galaxy did not want humans to spread out and become strong enough to challenge their authority. The Galactic Council was made up of 3 different alien species that had divided up the galaxy between themselves over 1,000 years ago. The Vorthan Empire was led by tall reptilian creatures who believed that only the strongest species should rule over others. The Zalari Collective was made up of beings that looked like living crystals and thought that everything should be organized according to their logical systems. The Nephilim Federation consisted of gas-like creatures who lived in huge ships and controlled trade routes between star systems. All 3 of these alien groups had been watching humanity with growing concern as human ships explored more and more systems and human colonies grew larger and more successful. They had tried to limit human expansion through trade restrictions and diplomatic pressure, but humans kept pushing further out into space anyway. Chief Engineer Pete Johnson climbed up to the bridge from the lower levels of the ship where the massive engines and power systems were located. Johnson was a big man with strong hands who had spent his whole career working on the most advanced ships in the human fleet. He had helped design many of the new technologies that made the Hurricane class so powerful. "Captain, all systems are ready," Johnson reported. "The quantum plasma reactors are running at full power and all weapon systems have been tested and calibrated. The ship is ready for whatever comes next." Morrison looked around at his crew and felt proud of what they had accomplished. These men and women had worked in secret for years to build and test the most advanced warship that humanity had ever created. They had trained for countless hours to learn how to operate systems that were beyond anything other species had developed. The technology that made the Devastator so special had come from studying a crashed alien probe that had been found on Mars 20 years earlier. Human scientists and engineers had taken apart every piece of that probe and figured out how its advanced systems worked. Then they had improved on those designs and created something even better. Dr. Rachel Stone, the ship's science officer, was studying data about the alien species they might have to fight. She was an expert on alien biology and psychology who had spent years learning how different species thought and fought. Her research had shown that most alien species relied on large numbers of smaller ships rather than building a few very powerful vessels like humans had done. "Captain," Dr. Stone said, "my analysis shows that the alien fleets are positioning themselves according to their traditional battle formations. They expect to use overwhelming numbers to defeat any human resistance. They have no idea what they are about to face." Morrison walked over to the main tactical display that showed a three-dimensional map of the local star systems. Red dots marked the positions of alien fleets while blue dots showed human colonies and ships. The alien forces outnumbered human ships by more than 100 to 1, but Morrison was not worried about those odds. Commander Alex Turner, the ship's weapons officer, was running final checks on all the Devastator's combat systems. Turner was a veteran of several smaller conflicts with alien raiders and knew how to use every weapon on the ship with deadly accuracy. He looked up from his control panel with a confident expression. "All weapons are charged and ready, Captain," Turner reported. "The Hellstorm cannons are operating at maximum efficiency and the Nova torpedoes are loaded and armed. We also have the new Quantum Lance system that we have never tested in actual combat." Morrison took one last look at the tactical display, and then walked back to his captain's chair in the center of the bridge. The moment had finally come for humanity to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. For too long, humans had been treated as a minor species that could be pushed around and controlled by older and more established alien powers. Admiral Frank Collins's final message came through the communication system with crystal clarity. His voice was calm but determined as he spoke the words that would change the course of galactic history. "Operation Hurricane is approved. Show them what humans can do when they are threatened." Morrison settled into his chair and looked around at his crew one more time. These brave men and women were about to make history and possibly save the human race from destruction or slavery. The aliens had made the mistake of thinking that humans would back down when threatened, but they were about to learn how wrong they were. "All stations, this is the captain," Morrison announced over the ship's communication system. "Power up all systems and prepare for combat operations. It is time to show the galaxy that humanity will not be intimidated or controlled by anyone." The massive fusion reactors deep in the ship's core began to hum with increasing power as the Devastator came fully alive for the first time. Space itself seemed to vibrate as the Hurricane-class battleship prepared to reveal humanity's true strength to a galaxy that had no idea what was coming. The Vorthan battle fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the Kepler 442 system, like a pack of hungry wolves sensing wounded prey. War Commander Thesh Kalar stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched as 200 ships arranged themselves in perfect battle formation around him. The reptilian commander was 7 feet tall with dark green scales and yellow eyes that burned with the pride of his warrior race. Thesh Kalar had been expanding Vorthan territory for the past 5 years and had claimed 3 human colonies without any real resistance from the weak Earth forces. The human settlements had been easy to conquer because their small defense fleets were no match for superior Vorthan technology and tactics. Now he had received orders to crush any human ship that dared to challenge Vorthan authority in this sector. The massive viewscreen on his bridge showed empty space where his sensors had detected the approaching human vessel. Thesh Kalar's communications officer, a younger Vorthan named Kreshtar, reported that they were receiving a transmission from the unknown ship. "War Commander, the human vessel is requesting that we withdraw from this system immediately," Kreshtar said with obvious amusement in his voice. "They claim this is protected human space and that we are violating interstellar law." Thesh Kalar's mouth opened to reveal rows of sharp teeth as he laughed at the foolishness of these primitive mammals. 1 human ship against 200 of the finest warships in the Vorthan fleet was not a battle but an execution. He had destroyed entire human colonies with smaller forces than what he commanded today. The human ship finally appeared on their sensors as it emerged from the shadow of a large asteroid. Thesh Kalar stared at the tactical display in surprise because the vessel was much larger than any human ship he had ever encountered. The readings showed a craft that was over 12 kilometers long and covered with weapon systems that his computers could not identify. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Devastator and studied the alien fleet through the main view screen. The Vorthan ships were arranged in their traditional attack formation, with the larger dreadnoughts in the center and the smaller cruisers spread out in a wide circle. It was exactly the kind of predictable formation that human tacticians had studied and planned to defeat. Commander Alex Turner was at his weapons control station, running final checks on all the ship's combat systems. The young officer had trained for years to use the advanced weapons that made the Hurricane class so deadly. His hands moved quickly across the control panels as he charged the primary cannon batteries and loaded the torpedo tubes with their most powerful warheads. "Captain, I count 200 enemy vessels," Turner reported. "Most are cruiser-class ships, but there are 12 dreadnoughts in their main battle line. They are moving into attack position and their weapons are powering up." Morrison nodded calmly as he watched the alien ships spread out to surround his vessel. The Vorthan tactics were based on using superior numbers to overwhelm their enemies, with massive firepower from multiple directions. It was a strategy that had worked well against other alien species, but it would not be effective against human technology. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Barnes was monitoring the enemy communications from her sensor station. The advanced listening equipment on the Devastator could intercept and translate almost any alien transmission in real time. She turned to face the captain with an expression of disgust on her face. "Sir, the Vorthan commander is bragging to his fleet about how easy it will be to destroy us," Barnes reported. "He is telling his ships to capture any human survivors so they can be sold as slaves in Vorthan markets." Morrison's jaw tightened as he heard those words. The idea of humans being bought and sold like animals filled him with cold anger that made his decision about what to do next very easy. The Vorthans had just made their biggest and final mistake by threatening to enslave members of his species. Chief Engineer Pete Johnson's voice came over the communication system from the engine room deep inside the ship. "Captain, all power systems are running at maximum efficiency. The quantum plasma reactors are stable, and we have enough energy to fight for hours if necessary." Dr. Rachel Stone was studying the tactical information about Vorthan ships and weapons from her science station. Her research had shown that reptilian species like the Vorthans were naturally aggressive and would always choose to attack rather than negotiate. This made them dangerous enemies, but also predictable ones. "Captain, Vorthan battle doctrine calls for an immediate missile barrage followed by close-range energy weapon attacks," Dr. Stone reported. "They will try to overwhelm our defenses with sheer numbers." The first sign of the coming battle appeared on the tactical display as hundreds of missile launch signatures lit up across the Vorthan fleet. War Commander Thesh Kalar had decided to open the engagement with the traditional Vorthan tactic of launching every missile his ships carried in one massive coordinated attack. Over 5,000 plasma torpedoes streaked through space toward the lone human battleship like a swarm of deadly insects. Each missile carried enough explosive power to destroy a city, and the combined firepower was supposed to be enough to crack open any ship's defenses and leave it helpless. Commander Turner watched the approaching missile swarm on his tactical display and activated the Devastator's point defense systems. Hundreds of small laser cannons and particle beam weapons began firing automatically as the advanced targeting computers calculated the trajectory of each incoming missile. The space around the Devastator lit up like a fireworks display as the point defense weapons destroyed missile after missile with perfect accuracy. The human targeting systems were so advanced that they could track and destroy multiple targets simultaneously while calculating the most efficient firing solutions. "Point defenses are engaging the missile swarm," Turner reported calmly. "We are destroying 98% of all incoming projectiles. The remaining missiles are not powerful enough to penetrate our shields. The few missiles that made it through the defensive fire struck the Devastator's energy barriers and were absorbed harmlessly by the revolutionary shield technology. The alien weapons simply did not have enough power to damage the advanced human defensive systems." War Commander Veshkalar stared at his tactical display in disbelief as his most powerful attack had no effect on the human ship. 5,000 missiles had been reduced to harmless light flashes against energy shields that seemed impossible to break through. Morrison looked around his bridge at the calm faces of his crew and felt proud of their training and professionalism. Not one person showed any sign of fear or concern, even though they were outnumbered 200 to 1 by an enemy that wanted to enslave their entire species. "Mr. Turner, return fire," Morrison ordered in a voice that was as cold as space itself. "Show them what real weapons look like." The Devastator's main guns opened fire for the first time in actual combat, and the results were beyond anything the Vorthans could have imagined. The news of what happened at Kepler 442 spread across the galaxy faster than anyone could have imagined. Within 6 hours of the battle, every major alien government had received reports about the complete destruction of War Commander Veshkalar's fleet by a single human warship. The reports were so unbelievable that most alien leaders thought they were receiving false information or propaganda. High Counselor Zeth Miran of the Zalari Collective stood in his crystal chamber deep inside the massive space station that served as the capital of his civilization. The tall crystalline being was over 300 years old and had never seen anything that challenged his logical understanding of warfare and technology. His body was made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light when he was thinking deeply about complex problems. The tactical recordings from the battle showed the Vorthan fleet firing over 5,000 missiles at the human ship and watching helplessly as their most powerful weapons had no effect at all. Then the human vessel had returned fire with weapons that the Zalari computers could not identify or understand. 20 Vorthan ships had simply disappeared in the first exchange of fire. Zeth Miran as chief military advisor, a younger crystal, being named Valthara, was reviewing the sensor data from Zalari observation posts that had monitored the battle from a safe distance. The readings showed energy signatures that were completely unknown to Zalari science and weapon effects that seemed to violate the basic laws of physics. High Counselor, our analysis shows that the human weapons appear to manipulate space and time itself. Valthara reported in the musical tones that Zalari used to communicate. The energy readings suggest technology that is hundreds of years more advanced than anything we have developed. Meanwhile, in the gas clouds of the Nephilim Federation's mobile capital ship, Supreme Gas Form Nethkulos was discussing the situation with his war council. The Nephilim were beings made of intelligent gas who lived inside specially designed ships and communicated through changes in atmospheric pressure and chemical compositions. The Nephilim had built their civilization on the principle that superior numbers and overwhelming force could defeat any enemy. Their fleets contained thousands of ships, and they had never encountered a situation where a single vessel could stand against such massive firepower. The idea that one human ship could destroy an entire Vorthan battle fleet was almost impossible for them to accept. Captain Jake Morrison found himself in a position he had never expected when he first took command of the Devastator. He was sitting on the bridge of his ship receiving communication requests from alien governments across the galaxy. Every major species wanted to talk to the human commander who had just demonstrated that Earth possessed weapons beyond anything they had imagined. Lieutenant Ben Rogers was working around the clock to handle the flood of incoming transmissions. The communication officer had to use the ship's advanced translation computers to convert dozens of different alien languages into English so that Captain Morrison could understand what each species was trying to say to him. "Captain, we have received formal requests for dialogue from 17 different alien governments," Rogers reported. "The Zalari Collective wants to discuss human weapon technology, and the Nephilim Federation is asking about possible alliance agreements. Even some of the smaller species are reaching out to establish diplomatic contact." Dr. Rachel Stone was analyzing the psychological profiles of the various alien species to help Captain Morrison understand how to deal with each group. Her research showed that different alien cultures would react to the demonstration of human power in very different ways based on their biological and social development. "The Nephilim respect strength above all else," Dr. Stone explained to the captain. They will likely want to ally with us rather than fight against superior technology. Zilari are naturally curious and will want to understand how our weapons work. The Vorthans will probably seek revenge, but they will also be more cautious after losing an entire fleet. Morrison decided that the best approach was to address all the alien governments at once through a galaxy-wide broadcast. He wanted to make sure that every species understood exactly where humanity stood, and what would happen if they continued to threaten human colonies or Earth itself. The captain stood in front of the main communication array on his bridge as Rogers established connections with communication networks across dozens of star systems. Morrison knew that his words would be translated into hundreds of alien languages and broadcast to billions of intelligent beings throughout the galaxy. People of the galaxy, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran Hurricane-class battleship. Devastator, he began in a calm but firm voice. For years, humanity has tried to establish peaceful relationships with your civilizations. We offered trade, cultural exchange, and mutual cooperation. Your response was to demand that we abandon our colonies and submit to your authority. Morrison paused to let his words be translated and transmitted across the vast distances of space. He could see on his tactical display that alien fleets throughout the galaxy had stopped moving and were waiting to hear what the human commander would say next. What happened at Kepler 442 was not an act of aggression but a response to threats against human civilians, Morrison continued. We will defend our people and our territory against any force that tries to harm them. We do not seek conflict, but we will not back down from it either. Commander Alex Turner was monitoring long-range sensors that showed alien fleet movements across multiple sectors. The sensor readings indicated that some alien forces were pulling back from human territory while others were beginning to mass together in what looked like preparation for a major military operation. Captain, I am detecting significant fleet movements, Turner reported. It looks like the three main alien powers are gathering their forces. The Galactic Council appears to be preparing for a coordinated response to our demonstration of power. Chief Engineer Pete Johnson had been working with his team to analyze the performance of all the ship's systems during the battle. The Hurricane class had performed even better than expected, and Johnson was confident that they could handle whatever the aliens decided to throw at them next. Morrison reviewed the tactical situation with his senior officers and realized that the destruction of one Vorthan fleet had not ended the conflict but had actually made it much larger. The alien powers now understood that humanity possessed advanced military technology and they would not allow that challenge to their authority to go unanswered. The response from the Galactic Council came exactly 12 hours after Morrison's broadcast. The message was brief and delivered in the cold, formal language that alien diplomats used when they were preparing for war. All three major alien powers had agreed to combine their military forces and eliminate the human threat once and for all. Morrison read the alien ultimatum and smiled grimly as he realized that the galaxy's leaders had made the same mistake as War Commander Desh Kalar. They thought that superior numbers would be enough to defeat human technology, but they were about to learn how wrong they were. All hands, this is the captain, Morrison announced over the ship's communication system. Prepare for the largest battle in galactic history. They are bringing everything they have, and we are going to show them why that will not be enough. The combined fleet of the Galactic Council emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like a dark cloud blocking out the stars. 837 warships from 3 different alien civilizations spread out in the largest military formation that anyone in the galaxy had ever seen. The ships ranged from small Vorthan destroyers to massive Nephilim battle stations that were each the size of a small moon. Admiral Frank Collins stood in the command center of Earth Defense Headquarters and watched the tactical display that showed the approaching alien armada. The old soldier had fought in dozens of smaller conflicts during his long career, but nothing had prepared him for a battle of this size. He knew that the fate of the entire human race would be decided in the next few hours. President Helen Martinez had called an emergency meeting of the World Council when the alien fleet was first detected approaching the Solar system, many government. Leaders wanted to evacuate Earth's population to the outer colonies, but Martinez had refused to consider retreat. She believed that running away would only delay the inevitable confrontation and make humanity look weak to other species in the galaxy. The alien fleet was commanded by a joint council that included representatives from all three major powers. Supreme War Commander Velkthorin of the Vorthan Empire was seeking revenge for the destruction of their battle fleet at Kepler 442. High Strategic Form Cathanulos of the Nephilim Federation wanted to eliminate the human threat before it could spread to other systems. Crystal General Methviller of the Zalari Collective believed that human technology was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Devastator as his ship took position near Earth's moon. The massive battleship looked small compared to the approaching alien armada, but Morrison was not concerned about the odds they were facing. He had complete confidence in his ship and crew after their victory over the Vorthan fleet. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Barnes was tracking the movement of individual alien ships as they arranged themselves in attack formation. The enemy fleet was so large that it took over an hour for all the ships to emerge from hyperspace and take their assigned positions. Barnes had never seen so many hostile vessels in one place at the same time. "Captain, the alien fleet has completed their deployment," Barnes reported. "I count 837 enemy ships, including 43 dreadnoughts and 12 super battleships. They are maintaining position at maximum weapons range while their commanders coordinate their attack plan." Dr. Rachel Stone was analyzing the psychological profiles of the alien commanders based on intercepted communications between their ships. Her research showed that the three species had very different approaches to warfare, and it would be difficult for them to work together effectively, even against a common enemy. "The Vorthan commander wants to attack immediately and overwhelm us with superior numbers," Dr. Stone explained to Captain Morrison. "The Nephilim leader prefers a more methodical approach with coordinated strikes from multiple directions. The Zalari commander is focused on studying our defensive capabilities before committing to any specific battle plan." Chief Engineer Pete Johnson had spent the past week making final adjustments to all the ship's systems in preparation for the coming battle. The Hurricane-class battleship was operating at peak efficiency with every weapon charged and every defensive system ready to protect Earth from the largest alien attack force in galactic history. The alien ultimatum was delivered exactly as Morrison had expected. The Joint Commanders demanded that humanity surrender immediately and submit to Galactic Council authority. All human colonies would be abandoned, and Earth's population would be relocated to designated areas under alien supervision. Any resistance would result in the complete destruction of human civilization. Morrison's response was broadcast on all frequencies so that every ship in both fleets could hear his words. "We are human beings, and we do not surrender to anyone. We do not abandon our homes, and we do not bow to threats. If you want to destroy us, then you will have to try, but I promise you that we will make you pay a price that you will never forget." The battle began when the alien fleet launched the most massive coordinated attack in the history of galactic warfare. Over 20,000 missiles of every type imaginable streaked through space toward the lone human battleship. Plasma torpedoes from Vorthan ships mixed with crystal shard projectiles from Zalari vessels and energy bombs from Nephilim battle stations. At the same time, hundreds of energy weapons opened fire from maximum range. Laser cannons, particle beams, and exotic radiation weapons all focused their destructive power on the Devastator. The combined firepower was enough to destroy an entire planet, and it created a ball of destructive energy that could be seen from Earth with the naked eye. Commander Alex Turner watched his tactical display as the massive attack approached his ship. The point defense systems were already engaging the incoming missiles, but there were simply too many targets for even the advanced human technology to stop them all. Turner knew that this battle would test every system on the Hurricane-class battleship. "All defensive systems are engaging," Turner reported to Captain Morrison. "We are destroying most of the incoming missiles, but some will get through." The energy weapons are too numerous to avoid completely. All hands should brace for impact. The first wave of alien weapons struck the Devastator's shields and created an explosion that registered on sensors throughout the solar system. The energy barriers around the human ship flared and sparked as they absorbed incredible amounts of destructive force. For several seconds, the battleship was completely hidden inside a ball of burning plasma and destructive energy. When the energy finally dissipated, the Devastator was still there. The ship's hull showed scorch marks and several external sensors had been destroyed, but the overall structure remained intact. The revolutionary shield technology had held against the most powerful attack that the galaxy's three major civilizations could produce. Morrison felt a surge of pride as he looked around his bridge and saw that his crew was still alive and ready to fight. The alien attack had been impressive, but it had not been enough to penetrate the advanced defensive systems that human engineers had developed. "Damage report," Morrison ordered calmly. "Shields are down to 43%, but holding steady," Turner reported. "We lost some external equipment, but all major systems are operational. The quantum armor absorbed most of the energy that got through the shields. All weapon systems are ready to return fire." Morrison stood up from his captain's chair and walked over to the main tactical display. The alien fleet was already preparing for a second attack, but the human commander had no intention of giving them that opportunity. It was time to show the galaxy what the Hurricane-class battleship could really do when all of its weapons were used at once. "All batteries, prepare to fire," Morrison announced. "Full spread on all targets. Let us end this fight right now." The Devastator's main guns began to charge as the ship prepared to unleash its complete arsenal for the first time in actual combat. The Devastator's weapons opened fire with a sound like thunder that could be heard across the vacuum of space itself. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his bridge as the Hurricane-class battleship unleashed every weapon system it carried in. One devastating attack that would be remembered for centuries to come. The Hellstorm cannons tore holes in space and time, while quantum lances pierced through multiple alien ships at once like needles through paper. "Commander." Alex Turner's hands moved across his control panels as he directed the fire from dozens of different weapon systems. Nova torpedoes created miniature stars that consumed everything within their blast radius, while particle beam arrays swept through formations of enemy ships like invisible swords cutting through armor. The experimental weapons that human engineers had developed performed even better than their most optimistic predictions. The alien fleet that had seemed so massive and threatening just minutes before began to disappear as human weapons found their targets with perfect accuracy. Vorthan dreadnoughts that had conquered dozens of worlds simply ceased to exist when Hellstorm cannon fire hit their hulls. Nephilim battle stations the size of small cities were torn apart by quantum lance strikes that ignored their heavy armor and destroyed them from the inside. High strategic form Cathanulos of the Nephilim Federation watched in horror as his flagship's tactical display showed ship after ship vanishing from his fleet formation. The gas-being commander had never seen weapons that could destroy multiple targets simultaneously or create explosions that seemed to burn in the vacuum of space without any fuel source. Crystal General Methviller of the Zilari Collective tried to analyze the human weapon signatures with his advanced computers, but the energy readings made no sense according to everything his species knew about physics and engineering. The Crystalline commander realized that humanity had developed technology that was beyond the understanding of any other species in the galaxy. Supreme War Commander Velk Thorin of the Vorthan Empire screamed orders at his remaining ships as he watched his revenge fleet being systematically destroyed by a single human vessel. The reptilian warrior had never experienced defeat on this scale and could not accept that his superior numbers meant nothing against human technology. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes from the first shot to the final explosion. When the last alien ship was destroyed, the space around Earth was filled with expanding clouds of plasma and debris that had once been the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever assembled. 837 warships had been reduced to nothing more than glowing gas and twisted metal. Morrison stood on his bridge and looked out at the aftermath of the greatest victory in human history. Not a single alien ship had survived the encounter, and the Devastator had taken only minor damage to its outer hull. The message had been sent to every species in the galaxy that humanity would not be conquered or controlled by anyone. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Morrison found himself in a very different situation than he had ever imagined when he first took command of the Hurricane-class battleship. He was sitting at the head of a conference table in the newly built Galactic Council chambers on Earth's moon, representing humanity in discussions with the leaders of species that had once tried to destroy his home world. The former alien powers had requested protection under human oversight after word spread throughout the galaxy about Earth's military capabilities. Dozens of smaller species that had been oppressed by the old galactic order had also sent representatives to ask for help against various threats that existed in the outer regions of known space. High Counselor Zeth Miran of the Zalari Collective had been the first alien leader to formally request alliance with humanity. The crystalline being had offered to share his species' advanced crystal technology in exchange for protection from aggressive neighbors who might try to take advantage of Zalari peaceful nature. Supreme gas form Nethkulos of the Nephilim Federation had pledged his civilization's vast industrial capacity to support human expansion into unexplored regions of space. The gas beings were natural traders and manufacturers who could produce ships and equipment faster than any other known species, even. The proud Vorthan Empire had eventually sent diplomats to negotiate terms of surrender and alliance. War Commander Velsh Karan, who had taken control after the death of Velk Thorin, had personally offered to place Vorthan military forces under human command in exchange for being allowed to maintain control of their core worlds. Dr. Rachel Stone had become Earth's chief advisor on alien relations, and her research had proven invaluable in establishing peaceful contact with dozens of species that had never interacted with humans before. Many of these smaller civilizations had welcomed human intervention as liberation from centuries of oppression by the three major powers. Commander Turner had been promoted to captain and given command of the THS Thunderstorm, the second Hurricane class battleship, to enter service. 3 more ships of the same class were under construction in orbital shipyards around Earth and the outer colonies. The Hurricane-class program had expanded rapidly as human leaders realized that military strength was the key to maintaining peace in a dangerous galaxy. Lieutenant Ben Rogers had become a full commander and was now in charge of the Galactic Communication Network, a quantum-based system that allowed instant communication across vast distances. His innovation had revolutionized diplomacy and trade throughout human-controlled space and made it possible to coordinate activities across hundreds of star systems. Chief Engineer Pete Johnson had been promoted to head of the Starship Development Division and was working on designs for even more advanced vessels than the Hurricane class. The next generation of human warships would incorporate technology learned from studying captured alien equipment and would be even more powerful than the ships that had won the Battle of Sol. Morrison walked to the observation deck of the Devastator and looked out at Earth turning slowly in space below him. The planet looked peaceful and beautiful from this distance, but he knew that humanity's rise to galactic prominence had changed everything for his species. They were no longer a small civilization struggling to survive in a hostile universe, but the dominant military power in known space. Johnson joined him on the observation deck carrying 2 cups of coffee, a beverage that had become surprisingly popular among alien species who had never tasted anything like it before. The chief engineer had become one of Morrison's closest friends during their years, serving together on the revolutionary battleship. "It is hard to believe that it all started with one ship," Johnson said as he handed Morrison his coffee. "Now, we have fleets of advanced vessels and colonies spreading across dozens of star systems. Humanity has claimed its place among the stars." Morrison nodded as he sipped his coffee and watched construction lights marking the orbital facilities where the next generation of human ships were being built. The Hurricane class had been just the beginning of humanity's expansion into space. Earth's children had come home to the cosmos, and they had brought technology and determination that no other species could match. The galaxy had wanted to test human resolve. And now they all knew the answer to that question.